And a jolly good morning from the small Hertfordshire village of Pirton, where today I'm going to take a walk of approximately 6 miles, 6.5 miles, 9 or so kilometres in that general direction, north out of the village, in a circular route which will take me back round via the village of Shillington back to Pirton, and I'll arrive back in the village somewhere down there in hopefully between 2 and 2.5 hours time. Probably the longer amount of time, as I'm sure on this lovely day there'll be plenty of opportunities to just sit down, have a little break from the walk and just enjoy the countryside. Now this is a walk I don't do particularly often, primarily because the first part of the walk, once I leave the village here, is along a fairly busy country road between here and the village of Holwell. So it can be a little bit tricky when there's lots of cars walking along there, particularly if you've got children with you or your dog. But it's not impossible. In fact, it's a walk I tend to usually do on a Sunday morning, first thing, when there's very little traffic about. But it's a nice day today. I fancy going over that way, so I'm gonna go and risk the traffic and see how we get on. So come along for the walk. Let's see what we see along the way. It's a lovely day. It's about 14 or 15 Celsius already, and I expect it to be about 18 by the time I've finished. So perfect weather for not needing hats and coats, or indeed long trousers, or waterproofs. So we'll see what we see along the way. It's mostly through countryside, and yeah, ditch that TV remote, put down your phone, pop on some music and enjoy the world around you. That's what I say. We're on West Lane, incidentally, just heading out of the village, and we'll be going onto the Holwell Road. We'll walk on there for probably just under half a mile, and as I say, it's on quite a busy country road, so you do have to just have your wits about you a little bit when you're along there. But once you're off that, there's not really much to trouble us until I arrive back in the village. Always love these cottages just as you walk out of the village. Again, you just need to be a little bit careful along here because there's always cars parked, which leaves more or less a single lane for everyone to get by, such as that. And then you don't get a footpath start until just here. There's a new housing estate just on the right hand side, so you kind of get lulled into a false sense of security here because you suddenly get a footpath from no footpath. But all that does is lead into the estate. We're going to take a left turn here towards the village of Holwell, although we're not going to Holwell itself, and be walking along the country lane as it has been for as long as I can remember. This here, of course, is all very new. You can, for part of the walk along the road here, walk in the field just adjacent. I'll do that, but it's not really very far. If you can see ahead, we're basically walking to the end of this straight section ahead. Just turn, bear off right towards the village of Holwell, and then we'll be taking a turn off down a country lane. So as you can see, it's probably about half a mile or so that we're going to be walking along this road, and already 2 cars have gone past in the opposite direction. As I say, you can can just take a little diversion through this field on the right for a short part of the walk anyway, which I think is what most people tend to do. But it's not for very far. And that's about it for the walk. Not on the road. You can probably edge your way through there a bit further, but there's a lot of nettles and brambles, and you possibly could suffer the wrath of the farmer if you go traipsing across through there. And I don't think there's really a viable way out either once you get down here. So really, it's a high side to the road here. You can't really walk on. You kind of can walk on it in winter time when there's not so much grass and so on. But this time of year, this is why I come down to this particular walk on a Sunday morning. Because although you're not really walking a great distance along here, if you get vehicles coming in both directions, it can get a bit tricky, especially if any of the drivers in the vehicles are a little bit impatient. But don't let that put you off too much. You can always jump onto the side. We will at some point during this walk exit Hertfordshire and enter Bedfordshire, maybe on more than one occasion. I'm not quite certain where the Bedfordshire border begins over there. About halfway across the vale there, I believe. There are one or two public footpath signs that you see along the way, and I suspect that they'll suddenly turn into mid-beds rather than North Herts signs at some point. I can't say as I've actually noticed before. Here we go, more cars. See, it's not exactly a motorway, but you do need to have your wits about you along here, that's for sure. We'll soon be off this though. Okay, so we've just turned the right hand curve now at the end of that long straight. Sounds like a motor racing track, doesn't it? And if you carry on straight down this road, you will come to the village of Holwell. And if you carry on through the village of Holwell, you'll come to the main Bedford Road between Hitchin, Shefford and Bedford. And but here you'll see a public bridleway sign and a sign pointing towards Lower Stondon. Now, on this walk I won't actually be going to Lower Stondon itself. I'll be bearing off to the left before then and heading over in that direction towards Shillington. Now you can actually see the church at Shillington from here. In fact, it's a very good view of it. If I just show you there, it's a church on the hill, so it's very prominent from a long way away. But that is Shillington. I won't have time today to hang around in Shillington, but if you do come on a walk around here and you have time to visit Shillington and indeed Pirton, start your walk in one of the two places. It's a circular walk, so I guess it doesn't matter where you actually start. Shillington is well worthy of a little look around, and it's got the usual village facilities that you may wish to avail yourself of, such as pubs and a shop. Quite often get to see quite a few horses along here. Don't be alarmed by the dogs, they're on the other side of the fence. You do quite often get a bit of a welcoming committee as you walk along here. It's mid-spring and the temperature's finally risen, got a bit warmer, and of course everything's growing at top speed at the moment, including the nettles, so you may want to just bear that in mind if you're walking down here. I've got I don't need long trousers on today, but I did know how nettly it can get along here, so I thought I'll put some long trousers on today to protect the legs just a little bit. Morning, fine looking chap. Not too many horses about this morning. There's a few over there as well. It's a lovely walk this. Once you get off that road, that's the only downside of it in my opinion, having to just walk along that section. It'd be lovely if a footpath could be carved out along there in some way in those fields, but I don't suppose that's ever going to happen. I don't actually, as I live in this area, actually need the Go Jauntly app, but I have got it running today just to see how it performs on this route. On the face of it, looking at the route it's given me, it looks pretty good actually. Like with most things, sometimes the information put in is not 100% accurate, but it is possible to notify them if you spot any obvious errors or anomalies on the walk, and they can correct it. But today I just put in my starting point of the Fox Public House in Pirton and asked for a circular walk of about 9 kilometres, and this one came up. It's a great app. I've mentioned it before, and as I've also mentioned before, I'm not sponsored by them or anything like that. It's just one I came across. I'm sure there are other apps available, but if you're going for a walk and you want to be directed onto proper public footpaths and ones that don't always look like that they're public footpaths, then it's a good app. Google Maps will very often send you just on footpaths or whatever by roads, or on roads with no footpaths. And also you can't do circular routes as such on Google Maps. This is where you can put your start and finish point as the same place, or an A to B if you wish. So for example, I could have put in Shillington or Lower Stondon, and it would have well, from Pirton to Shillington, it wouldn't have sent me this way as a direct route, but if I'd given it more scope with more distance, it possibly would have sent me on a semicircular route. And it looks like we have passed out of Hertfordshire and now into Bedfordshire, because, as I thought, the signs are now showing central beds, so the border must have been just probably over that little stream there, I would think. So welcome to Bedfordshire. Probably will remain in Bedfordshire now until I leave Shillington. Who knows? But as you can see, it's a nice quiet walk, as you'll also see from the footprints and so on the ground. It is a bridle way. There's horse hoof marks in the ground. Not too many footprints, so this is quite a quiet walk. It's not one that people naturally go for, and I suspect partly because of that road you've got to walk down to get to the beginning of it. which is a shame because it is a lovely walk. So just going back to the Go Jauntly app, I just found it randomly one day advertised somewhere and gave it a try, and it's really good. It particularly comes into its own if you're in an area that you don't know all that well, or particularly well, and you want to go for a walk, not on roads or footpaths, but down public footpaths such as this, or you're in an area, for example, they've got quite a lot in London, where you obviously are walking on the streets of London, but it will take you on a route with interesting things to see along the way. I recently did one from London Bridge to, big circular from London Bridge actually, which took in a number of film locations. So it's got a big variety of stuff. Or if you just turn up in a particular area and you want to take a circular route from wherever you're staying or happen to be, then you can just put that in. It works by GPS, and let the app guide you through fields and down paths that you didn't even know existed. It's best to keep a little eye on the app, because sometimes, especially this time of year when there's a lot of growing going on, the grass is growing, lots of nettles, it's sometimes not always clear which is the public footpath and which isn't. And there's a sign there which says conservation area, please keep off, no public access, thank you. And sometimes they can be positioned in a slightly confusing way. That's quite clear, that's obvious that this is the path and over there is nothing to do with it, and please stay off for the reasons given. It can be a little bit unclear sometimes with signs, especially if they've fallen down and been put back up again, things like that, that you could potentially take a wrong route. And if you're restricted in time, it's another good thing with using an app such as this. If you are slightly restricted on the amount of time, maybe you need to catch a train back from somewhere to take you home, or you need to be somewhere else at a certain time, you can pop in, find a walk, and it gives you a very good indication. Whoops, fell down a rabbit hole there. It gives you a very good indication as to how long the walk is going to take, and you will know yourself. If you budget on 3 miles per hour or 5 kilometres per hour, you can put in that distance, and you'll know yourself if you're likely to be able to keep to that pace, or you want for stopping here and there. But you can work it out and tailor it to your own needs, dependent on how much time you've got. So, but it is handy, particularly in areas where you don't know very well. You might find that there's somewhere that you think's way out of reach to walk to, but when you actually look at it, it turns out that it's quite doable in the time you've got. So it could get you actually going to somewhere that you thought wasn't possible. So it's all good and all positive. So I've probably promoted it too much now. As I say, not sponsored by it or anything, but I do find it a really good app for that sort of thing. Anyway, it's absolutely incredible across here. I've not come across a single person walking down here yet. And right the way back over there is the village of Pirton. And I've dipped down into the sort of lower fields now. You can't really see the church at Shillington any longer, but it is over there somewhere. And sort of ahead of me is the village of Lower Stondon, but I will be turning away before I get to the village properly. I've just put a screenshot of what I can see on the map, on the Go Jauntly map, on their app. and it just gives you an indication as to when I reach this tree line here that I've just got to bear to the right slightly and then essentially keep going in a straight line in the same direction I'm going in now. But it's just a bit of a right turn, left turn, so it gives you an indication as to just what you're doing in places like this, because it can sometimes be not all that clear precisely which way you're supposed to be going. As you'll probably note from other videos of mine that if you've watched them, sometimes, as I say, the signage isn't always completely clear, which is fine if you've got plenty of time, and it doesn't matter if you take a wrong route. Sometimes life isn't quite as simple as that, and we don't always have unlimited amount of time, and we need to make sure we're back to the beginning at least by a certain time. So this will just help you not avoid any mishaps along the way. But that was just an example on a visible view. If you go on one of their more defined walks, if you like, you get photographs and written instructions as to which way you're supposed to be going, that someone's uploaded, and details of what it is you're going to see. But this is just a bespoke route based on where I was located and how long I wanted to go for. And as you can see, it wouldn't be beyond the possibility you'd think you're supposed to go up there. The app quite clearly, as you saw from that screenshot, tells you to just go right, then straight left straight away I should say, and down here, which looks less likely if you don't know the area. So that's a good example of how it can work for you. And just as another example, just to back up what I said there, this path essentially leads you to Lower Stondon, Lower Stondon. I do apologise. I was just looking at something else temporarily there, but this path will kind of indicate you should be going in a direction straight ahead, but in fact we'll be taking a turn to the left and heading off towards Shillington. And this is the sort of thing that can fox you when you've got arrows pointing in all directions but not really telling you precisely where it is you want to go. Although I'm sure if you go to the Central Beds website, it will give you some more detail on there. But there you go, there's another example where you could find yourself quite a distance along there before you realise you should have in fact turned left there. And a nice little bridge over the stream here. There is a slow moving stream that's really covered over by the foliage. Yeah, I can't emphasise enough, if you are happy to just wander aimlessly, which I am on occasions, so I'm more than happy to do that, and maybe an app isn't for you, but if you're trying to squeeze in the maximum amount of walking or the maximum amount of interest within that walk in a certain amount of time, then it's certainly the way to go, and well worth considering. Right, so got the sun behind me now, heading in a more or less westerly direction, and I believe we stay more or less in a straight line now all the way to Shillington, all the outskirts, the northern end part of Shillington, where we'll then walk through the village for a little way and then cut across the fields right the way over there back to Pirton. So making good progress here. And as this is a fairly quiet walk, if you like, not too many use this. It is not always clear which are the ways to be taken, and more importantly, I suppose, the way not to be taken. And for the geography geeks out there, the app I'm using actually tells you what your elevation above sea level is. And right where I'm stood now, I'm in a little circle, so I'm just slightly above 50 metres above sea level, and the 50-metre line runs in a complete circle around me. So I'm in a slight little hillock, if you like. It probably doesn't come out at all on the video, and it's to be honest with you, it's quite hard to see in the real world as well. But yeah, so I'm probably 50 and a bit metres above sea level where I'm stood right at this moment in time. That really is one for the, I think it's kind of a new build housing estate over there. If you carried on that path before we got to the little wooden bridge, you would kind of walk around that or through it. I've done that before, and then you can take the road from Lower Stondon up the top of the hill there, back round towards Shillington. Less fun, I would say, longer distance, depends how much time you've got, and if you want to spend more time walking on a road, this is much nicer. Given the time stipulation or the distance stipulation I put in this morning, this is absolutely perfect. Yeah, when you get to this little bit, this farm track, it's actually sending me straight ahead, and I can see where I'm going to go over the little bridge just ahead there. But you could just as easily take the farm track there and take a left turn, because the farm track bears right just up here by this bridge anyway, and that's where we'll be walking next. But good thing with using a GPS and an app is you can just make, as I say, you can just keep yourself, make sure you're on track. Now, is this guy going to stay still for me to take a picture? Butterflies around here. Here he goes. Some fantastic blue butterflies as well. So, plenty of signs making sure we know which way to go. And another sign there stating that it's a conservation area and to keep out. And back onto the farm track that I mentioned back there. Remember the last time I walked along here? It's during summer of 2022 when we had the heat wave, and for Britain the high 30 Celsius is absolutely ridiculous. It's way too hot for a country like this because we can't cope with it at all, and it felt like I was walking across a desert along here. It was absolutely incredible. I've never known heat like it in this country ever. You could, in theory, keep going along this farm track and take a right turn down there, although both the signs and the app do send you through the field, and again, just to illustrate yet again, it wouldn't always appear obvious that you should be walking right through the middle of a field, although to be fair, the farmer has kept the track as it should be, how he's obliged to keep it, which is good. So another very good example of how this app can work for you. Make sure you stay to the correct footpaths. In the middle of winter, when there's no crops in the field and it's been ploughed, it really can be quite difficult to establish that something like this is the correct way to be walking. Just saw a muntjac deer pop its head out there. Of course, I wasn't filming at the time, and it took one look at me, and before I got the filming going, it had run away. It's in there somewhere. Very elusive little creatures. And again, should it be that way or should it be this way? I don't think it would make a lot of difference in this particular instance which way you went, but it should be this way. Yeah, has the muntjac deer done that? Is that what muntjacs do? That sort of dig in there, because this is where the little fella was. Normally you can see like a rustle through the wheat as they run away. But this guy's gone, he's gone. I think he went, I'm pretty sure he went that way. If you're really lucky, you'll almost certainly, especially if you come first thing in the morning, keep the noise down, walk quietly and peacefully. You'll quite often see muntjacs, but you won't get very close to them. As soon as they realise you're there, they're away, back into the undergrowth. Looking back over there towards Pirton, Shillington, I nearly said Pirton. Shillington's over that way. You can't really see the village from here because she's behind all the trees and the hill, small hill. But that's an area where I walk frequently up towards Deacon Hill, High Down, Tingley Wood. It's a great place to walk up there too. And that's where most people tend to walk when they walk out of the village. Primarily, I think, because of the fact you don't need to walk down any busy roads. And fair play to Mid-Bed's council for keeping these signposts in order. So it makes it clear which way you're supposed to be going, because it wouldn't be obvious looking along here. Now there should be a little right turn just along here, and I can't see a post, so I'll be interested to see if there is a post for those that aren't using an app. It's only just up here. There should be probably with that hedge, along where that hedge is there somewhere. As I say, sometimes these posts fall over, or subject to vandalism, I suppose, on occasions. Although you do tend to find vandals are too lazy to make the effort to walk this far out into the countryside, but you never know. So I should be taking a right turn here, and other than the app and the fact that the grass, I suppose, is a little bit more trodden down around this corner, there's no post here, so there you go. That would I don't know where that would lead me to, whether there would be a through route that go carrying on down that way, but definitely, according to the app at least, I need to be going this way. So Mid-Beds Council, if you watch this, you've got a post missing. And once we get to the top here, we will reach a road which is called Shillington Road. It's the road between, surprisingly, Shillington and Lower Stondon. The app takes you to a turn off to the left, right the way over there in Shillington village, back to Pirton, across the fields, and it will be a combination of walking on the road and a few little diversions off it to get from the end of this path to the beginning of the path back to Pirton. I think I've only ever walked along the actual road, so I'll be interested to see how this pans out. I think it's just taking you off the road where it's actually possible to do so, but it is adding distance on, looking at it on the map. So I suppose the choice is yours. You could carry on the road, you'll still come to the left-hand turn off towards Pirton, or you can follow the app, which is what I'm going to do, just to see where it takes me, actually, more so than anything else. As I say, I think I've only ever come along here and stayed on the road until I get to the footpath back to the village. Right, just getting up to the Shillington, or one of the many Shillington roads, and going to be taking a left turn and walking along the road just for a short while at least. It's just approaching the halfway point in this walk now, and I've been walking for just over an hour. Not really stopped as such along the way, and thanks to the app and the good signage, I've also not taken any wrong routes so far, so that would explain that. Just see the church at Shillington now, just poking its little head above the high ground in front of me, higher ground. It is quite prominent, very prominent, from a long way away in many directions. For the time that you walk along this road, again, you'll just need to have your wits about you a little bit. It's not as busy as that other one, generally speaking. And it's mid-morning now, so things have quietened down a little bit too. But as you'll see ahead in a moment, there are vehicles making their way up and down this road. Right, well, at this end of the path, there is a sign that says you can walk down this way. As I say, at the other end, that right turn we made to get onto this part of the walk, it was non-existent. The post had disappeared, and the walkway is pretty much non-existent there as well. So I'm going to limbo underneath this farm gate instead. It's just the time of year. Normally there would be a there would be a route through there, but it's just completely overgrown, as it's quite a quiet walk. Now we're just going to take a walk along the road here, and there'll be I think I can see the sign from here actually, so probably a couple of 100 yards or meters, and then there'll be a right turn off this road. As I say, you can continue on this road into Shillington village, and eventually you'll come to the left-hand turn off pathway to take you back to Pirton. Actually, the side of the road here is actually cut back quite nicely and it's reasonably low. It is viable to walk on this, mostly, or at least get on it when cars come. There's a few drainage channels cut into it, but on the whole this is not too bad at all. Recently cut. Right, well, the app and the sign are both beckoning me off to the right here. I'm going to take that. If I needed to get back more quickly, then I would probably just opt to carry on along the road here. If you look on the map, it is the straightest route, but I've never been down this path, so I'm absolutely going to have to take it. And again, it doesn't look like it's a path that gets used particularly often. There's a sign there from Beds Council saying keep to the way-marked path and keep dogs under close control, thank you. Right, so let's see how way-marked this is. You can already see a sign saying private. Please keep to the path. Okay. Well, this is clearly not a well-used footpath by the looks of it. There's very little of it trodden down. Well, this strange little dog leg on the walk, which takes me off that road and ultimately in a moment or two back onto it, is where a couple of other footpaths converge and diverge really here. Now, this, it would appear, is a footpath from somewhere else. And there's Shillington over there, presumably from the road up there, which is why the app has sent me on this little dog leg. I'm going to come back to that road again shortly, just over here. So in this particular instance, you can work out for yourself whether that was worth it or not. You've probably walked 400 metres to avoid walking 100 metres along the road in reality. But what of course is happening is in the distance criteria I put within the app, it is trying to maximise the amount of time or the amount of distance for the walk within that criteria, and minimising the amount of time walking along an actual road. So in the sense of what I asked it to do, it's spot on. It's done exactly that. But what of course you can say to yourself, did I want to do that little bit there? You can see it on the map. I suspected this was going to be the case. It didn't look as though I was going to come back out again quite so close to where I went in. But it does something similar again further along, just as we approach Shillington village. So I'll be interested to see what happens there, but it's all interesting stuff for me anyway. Personally, I like going down these paths and seeing what's there. In this particular instance, not a huge amount, but it's just purely because it joined up with another path coming from right the way over there. In fact, I can see way ahead in the distance the path leading up to the road, up the top of the rise over there. And if you came down from that way, you would bear off to the left if you were heading towards Lower Stondon, and you would head off to the right if you heading towards Shillington. It's a little bit overgrown as well here. This is where you're supposed to go, but yet saplings have been planted. In fact, actually, I'll tell a lie, this has directed me, no, having a look here, that's directed me to walk along this side of the hedge off the road. So that explains that slight little anomaly there. And I'd much prefer to be on this side of the hedge than the other. So it's not quite as crazy as it seemed, actually. And this appears to be where you do supposedly walk back onto the road, but I think you can continue along here. There's so many nettles there, I'm not sure if there's actually a walkway across there. Can't see. The drainage ditches are quite deep, you don't really want to be falling in them. Slightly unclear at this point as to whether should be on the actual road or on this side of the drainage ditch, but at some point I'm going to have to hop over. You can find a good spot, hopefully just down the end here. I think just back there was where you were supposed to go back onto the road, but it was not clear. So it's another limbo underneath the fence here, and I will be walking along the road now for a little way until I take a left turn back over in that direction towards Pirton. Just starting to enter the Shillington area now. I know those of you that live up mountains and live in places like the Lake District or whatever will laugh your socks off at this, but we're walking up Marquis Hill now, which is probably about 5 metres higher than from top to bottom. But that's what it's called. And our first proper footpath for a little while. In a moment we're going to be taking a left turn off this road, and it'll be all countryside all the way back to Pirton. You could of course carry on into Shillington itself and have a look around there, use the facilities and so on, and there is another footpath from just on this road really, further down on the left, quite near the church, but you'll be able to set off back to the village. I've featured that path coming in the other direction on a walk before. I'll be going back this way today. Well, here we are at the top of Marquis Hill.
Don't film, please.
Don't film, please. Why shouldn't you be here, mate? Unbelievable. Right, so, Wits End. We're not walking down there. There's a good view of Shillington. And footpath down this way. Oh my word, don't film, please. Pretentious? Moi? Right, so we're pretty much in a straight line now back to Pirton. And this should ultimately, I believe at least, bring us out onto the Shillington Road, where we'll take a left turn, or I will take a left turn towards the High Street and the end of the walk by the Fox Public House. There's still a good probably 2 miles to go. I would say probably around about almost 2/3 of the way through the walk. Right, I've just taken a bit of a curve off to the right now, and further down here will be back left again. I think at least I know which path I'm going to come out on to head directly back to the village. I've certainly never walked down this particular footpath before, so this is a new one for me today. I think in the past I've continued on into Shillington itself to roundabout parallel with where the church is, and then there's a footpath that leads you back there, which is where I think I'll be coming out onto along here somewhere. I think maybe not, but I'm fairly sure that's the path I'll ultimately end up on, but along here, a bit further along it than where I would have started had I gone into the village. Yeah, it's fantastic down here, really nice. Much better than walking along that road for sure. And here's the left turn. Again, not this path heading back in a southeasterly direction is new to me as well. I have to say I'm quite thrilled with this walk in many respects. I've gone down some paths that I've never been down before, and I don't think I even knew existed. I will intersect with probably the main footpath from Shillington to Pirton, which is sort of running parallel to us here. I can just see some people walking over there. So I'm thinking that this probably forms part of a circular walk out of Shillington, where you would go halfway to Pirton over there somewhere, back round, and then back to the village in the opposite direction to the way I'm walking now. And this path will intersect that one over there at some point, back onto the path that I actually know and have walked down many times. Interestingly though, having walked down that other path many times, I can't recall ever seeing a turn off in this direction. So I'll be interested to see exactly where that is. All will be revealed shortly. And this is another great example of when you're not familiar with particular footpaths or areas. It's obviously handy that Central Beds have got a sign here that does indicate which way you should be going. But because of the massive growth at this time of year, that is a footpath across there. It would be easy to think that you shouldn't be walking across here, as it's not very wide because the crops have moved their way across quite a lot. And the farmer for this field at least hasn't kept a wide footpath cut through this. I don't know if there's any regulations on that sort of thing. A lot of them you see on some other walks straight the way across the middle of fields. They're usually at least a metre wide, if not a bit more. Anyway, that's not happened here. It looks like there's sufficient footfall along here for it to be kept trodden down. I think I know where I'm going to come out actually. Directly ahead of me, it probably isn't coming out on the camera, but I can see the church in St Mary's Church in Pirton in a direct straight line from here. If you swing round, there's the church on the hill in Shillington. The total distance between the two is about 2 miles. And I'm probably about half a mile along that 2 mile route. Yeah, I'd say I've probably got probably a mile and a half to go, maybe a bit less. Right, so that interesting little walk across the field. This is where I joined a path that I have walked on many occasions before, and I would have normally, if going from Pirton to Shillington, would have carried on down that way into the village. And I confess, I've never noticed this route before. I must have walked past it many times, so I'm back on known territory now. Amazing. So that's a nice circular route you can take from the village of Shillington out down one path and back down the other, and back into the village fairly closer together. It's just a gentle wind now across all these fields until we get back to Shillington Road in Pirton. Well, somewhere across that field, from where I came across the little bridge, we've entered back into Hertfordshire, for those of you interested in the geography of all of this. And that's the way it will remain now until I'm back in the village. So it's been a bit of a wind back and to across the border between central Bedfordshire and North Hertfordshire. Almost just over there is the Pirton to Shillington Road. I don't think you can get through if you wanted to going that way. Footpath takes you straight into the village just down here, and that will conclude this walk fairly soon. It's been great. A few new footpaths I've not been down before, and a bit of the only downside is I would say the part of the walk right at the beginning where you have to walk down that Holwell Road, which is quite busy. That would be lovely if there was a public footpath created, or some form of footpath created along there to get you from Pirton to the starting point at the corner where we went off into the countryside. That would be ideal. Unfortunately, it doesn't exist at the moment. Maybe one day. As it's fairly clear which way you should be going here. It's certainly clear which way you shouldn't be going. So, with the benefit of deduction, I don't know where that path leads. It always looks like it leads somewhere down there, but there's no signs to suggest you can wander across those fields there.